Hello there. Yesterday I played round 8 in Lichess LoneWolf tournament, and you might notice that I didn't do round 6 and round 7. I'm really busy. I have professional obligations, so I didn't have time to record these two games, but I hope I will once I find the time to do so, because there were very interesting games as well. But okay, this is the latest game and it's still fresh in my mind, so I wanted you to show you this game. So let's start. Let's get right into it. I was white, and you can see that my opponent was much higher rated, almost more than 200 points stronger. So it is how it is. And by looking at his profile, I saw that well, he's also strong in other categories, in blitz, bullet, and other categories. So he's stronger than me in all the areas of the chess, as far as I can see. And I did a little bit of preparation before this game. I just wanted to see what does he play against. Okay, Coco, please be quiet. So I just wanted to see. Okay. What does he play against e4? And it so happens that he played French, and I decided to play advanced French. And my general, so I can just go right into the game. So he played the French defense. So I was thinking before the game, what should I play? And for a while, I wanted to try to play advanced French. And the reason is, so I did play e5, I played advanced French. And the reason for this is that I believe that this opening, this variation, advanced French, gives you many learning opportunities. So when I choose the openings and when I choose how to respond to different kind of defenses, I try to follow the criteria that I want to choose sound, good moves, good variations, good openings, but at the same time openings which will give me learning, good learning experience. So I don't want some kind of opening which will just suck the life out of the game and which will not give me the chance to learn complex positional concepts. So, for example, I used to play before I decided to play advanced. I used to play the exchange. So when you play the exchange, it doesn't matter how it goes, but usually it just okay. It just ends up with the game which is free of all positional aspects. So it's just a dry kind of game. Doesn't matter what you play. It looks like something like this. For example, it's not a game in which you can learn a lot about chess. You will not face some complex ideas, most likely. So this is why I didn't want to play exchange or some simple variations, but I wanted to play e5 exactly because this is a strategically very complex game which will most likely emerge out of this opening. So this was my choice, and I said I did a little bit preparation. Of course, I didn't learn concrete variations, move orders, and so on, but I tried to look just few games, maybe 5-6 games played in the advanced French, just to see what are the basic ideas. And some stuff I did know, and some stuff I learned by watching the games. So let me tell you what do I know about this advanced French. So what are the typical plans and ideas for black? What are typical plans and ideas for white? Well, first of all, I'm sorry, I had to cut the video. My parrot was getting too loud, so I need to put him away in the other room. So I don't know why he's usually quiet, but this time he was just very loud. Okay, so where was I? Now, what do you need to know about this opening? And what do I know about this opening? Maybe you should know even more. So the light square bishop in the black's camp is his worst piece. So he will have many troubles trying to develop it, and he will most likely try to exchange his dark square bishop with my light square bishop, and so solve the problem. So this is one feature of the position. His kingside knight will most likely be developed on f5, and in that case I could try to exchange it with my light square bishop, because my light square bishop is not so important in this kind of positions, because I don't need this bishop to counter his light square bishop, because his light square bishop is a weak piece, so I can give away my light square bishop. I don't need it to counter his light square bishop. And this may sound a little bit paradoxical, because you might learn that if your pawns are on the dark squares, then your light square bishop should be your good bishop, and this should be your bad bishop. But in this structure, it's another way around. This bishop is very important. Dark square bishop is very important because he can counter his dark square bishop, which is a very strong bishop. So you need to keep dark square bishop, but you can give away light square bishop for his knight, but not your light square bishop for his light square bishop, because then you are doing him a favor. So he'll most likely go on f5, for example, and then I will try to exchange my bishop for knight. Or he might go to h6, and then I don't want to take, so I don't want to take this knight with my bishop for the reason I just said, because I don't want to part with my dark square bishop, because I needed to counter his dark square bishop, which is his very strong bishop. In fact, it is probably his strongest piece. So this is one idea. This d4 pawn will most likely become a target, so the black will try to pressure this pawn however he can. So for example, if he managed to put these pieces on this square, he will just try to exert lots of pressure to this d4 pawn, and I have to be aware of this and respond in time, so I don't find myself with the undefensible pawn. The thing which will happen if I play c3 here, he plays, okay, he always plays c5, and now I have a choice what to do. I played c3, so in this, I was looking at this variation, so in this variation, the c file will most likely be opened at some point, and then I need to control the c file, because it will be the only open file on the board, and for a long time it will be the only open file on the board, because the pawn structure is pretty rigid. So this is the thing I know, and well, what else do I know about this position? I know some ideas. For example, if he puts the knight on f5, then the g4 is idea. He has to be careful not to, for example, if he plays h6 and put his bishop here, then he will lose his knight. Those are some tricks. There are also some tricks involved in things like when you can check. So, for example, I know many variations about the trick. Let me try to. Okay, let me just try to show you the trick. So, for example, if I go here, so for example, this this pawn is not, looks like it's falling, but actually it's not, because this is the idea. If I can move the bishop and give check, then his queen falls. So I know some tactical tricks, and there are many variations with this bishop moving to check. It could be on g6. If he plays f6, then this diagonal opens for a check. If he castles, then I have this check to the king. So I know some tactical patterns regarding his attempt to win the d4 pawn at his expense. So I took a little bit time. I just wanted to know what I know about French structures and French positions. Do I know something else? I know about, let's say, this maneuver. So the way to defend this pawn is this maneuver with the knight. I know about this idea. Okay, this is pretty much it. So I wanted to, because the purpose of these videos is not to me bragging about my games, it's about how I approach my games. And if you are adult approver like myself, then you might find these advices useful. So this is the way I try to think about openings. Not if he played this, I play this. If he plays this, I play this, and so on. So I don't learn variations in this kind of manner, but I try to understand the position and the features of the position. And everything I just told you is something I know, and you will see that I will apply these principles in the game, and so will Black, because Black also knows this stuff, especially being so strong a player. Okay, so let's now see how the game went. So he played c5, c3. So this is the way this is played. Knight c3, knight f3, so just usual stuff, developing. Bishop d7. It's not a common move. The most common move is, I believe, the queen, but okay, usually these three options are something black plays. So okay, he played bishop d7, bishop e2. Now I'm just going for the castle, for development and castling my king. I didn't want to put the bishop here because then I cut this the defense of this pawn, and also I just lose. Well, I can lose a tempo maybe here, or I don't like these positions very much, although it's playable. So I just went for a quiet, decent bishop e2. Queen b6. Now you can see that this idea I was talking about, he's now piling on my pawn, but I don't have to worry because I have three defenses of the pawn. Once he tried to bring the fourth attacker to this pawn, then I will have to worry. So for example, when he plays knight to e7, wanting to go to f5, then I can play knight a3, and then when he goes f5, I can just go c2, and I'm defending the pawn. So this is the idea how to take care of this pawn. I castled. He played c takes d4 now, releasing the tension. It's not, I think, the most common move to play, but it's playable. I took the pawn back, of course, and now he decided to develop his knight g to e7. And now, like I told you, he has now two attackers. I have two defenders. And now once he brings his knight to f5, he will have three attackers, and I will have two defenders. So I need to see how to put the defender. So the most usual way is knight to a3. So when he plays, and it was played the game, knight to f5, I can play knight to c2. And now I have this pawn covered. But in fact, this wasn't the best move here, and I missed a great opportunity to get an advantage in this position. You can see that when he released the pressure too early, he gave me this c3 square for my knight. And I should have thought about this and how can I exploit it. Because I was thinking very shallow. I was thinking, okay, if I go knight c3, he will go knight f5, and then I have two defenders, he has three attackers. How can I defend this pawn? The only way is to bring my bishop here, and then he can take the bishop. First of all, I lost my dark square bishop, my pawn structure is ruined, and so on. So I didn't want to, this is what I saw, and I didn't want this to happen. So I was thinking when, if I play c3, this will happen. But actually, it's not, there are better ways to play this. So if he does try to win my pawn, I can just play the attacking forcing move with his queen. So where can his queen go now? He doesn't have so many squares. So whenever if this queen decides to go forward, I can just kick it away. So for example, if queen goes here, I can just kick it away with my pawns. I can even put the bishop, develop with tempo. So this queen doesn't have much options by going forward. So the queen has to go back. And now suddenly I don't have the problem. He has two attackers. I have two defenders, and his attacker is moved away, and I can just continue with strong development with tempo. So for example, bishop g5, hitting the queen. Bishop e7, now I can exchange his strongest piece on the board, put my rook in, and this is a very pleasant position for white. So this is what I missed. So this will be a great position for white, and I would surely have the advantage because my knight has a nice square here. It can be even reactivated like here. His dark square bishop, his strongest piece on the board, is out of the game. I have seized the only open file on the board. I have good development and so on. So I missed this opportunity. I didn't calculate after this. I didn't calculate that I have attacking move. So you always need to calculate. Sorry, you always need to calculate all forcing variations when you calculate. So this is the first mistake in my game. It's not a big mistake, but it's just a missed opportunity to have a better position. So I played the knight e3. He played knight f5. Like I said, knight c2. So now I'm defending the pawn. he went with knight to a5. So what is his goal here? His goal is to exchange this light square bishop, and this is the great way to do so. Usually in French structures, he wants to exchange these bishops, and he have to give away some concessions. It's difficult to stop him from exchanging. He will, one way or another, he almost always can force the exchange, but the question is at what cost. So here he did wanted to exchange, but he paid the price. First of all, this pawn is no longer pressured, so I can be freer. My pieces have more liberty. I don't need 3 pieces to guard this pawn. This is one concession, and another one is that this knight is temporarily out of the game on very. It's not on the good spot. So I think that. I think it is a good move. This is a good plan because he really manages to force the exchange. But okay, he did pay the price for it. But nevertheless, I think it was a good move and good plan. I played b3 just to cut to take away this c4 square. I don't want his knight coming any further in my position. Bishop b5. Now he exchanges. What should I do? I cannot wait for him to capture. I don't see the point in this because then again my pawn will be pressured and he can just bring his knight back. By moving the queen, I don't protect this pawn anymore, and he gets a tempo with knight. So I'm basically forced to accept the exchange, and he takes. And now he takes back with improving his queen. So this is why I think this plan was a good plan, because he takes by moving forward. If you can capture after the exchange, it's one rule of thumb, but after the exchange of the pieces, the side who captures by moving his pieces forward or improving his pieces, it's usually the side which profits. And this is what happens here. So he captures by improving his queen. You can see that my light squares are weak. They're only covered by this queen. So these squares are weak, and he's putting the queen controlling the light squares. And he's basically, by moving the queen to b5, he's improving his queen. So he managed to exchange his light square bishops, which is his positional goal all the way. And another thing, he managed to improve his queen. So now I'm now in a defensive mode, let's say, because now I have to think what to do about these weak squares. I would like to exchange the queen, but queen's here because his queen is now very close to my camp, but how to do it? If I cannot put the queen on these squares because they are not controlled by my pieces. So now I'm the one having the problem to solve. So I played knight to e3. So first of all I wanted to remove this knight. So he took he accepted my offer to exchange. He doesn't want, of course, this. It's not a very nice pawn structure if he has to capture with e pawn. So he took. Now I must admit, very briefly, I was considering to capture with the f pawn with the idea of this attack, but then I saw that this attack can very easily be met. So, for example, if I take, he can just develop his bishop, and I don't have an attack anymore. If I try to open, for example, for this idea, he can just castle, and now I have nothing by having the rook of f file. And also, if I were to capture with the f pawn, what is the prospect of this bishop? He cannot go here. If he goes here, he will be blocked. Here he doesn't do anything. Sorry. So I did very briefly consider capturing with f pawn, but I saw that this was a bad idea, so I captured with the bishop. And now he played a very strong move, well, maybe not very strong move, but very interesting move, which I saw while he was thinking. I was thinking, what would I play if I was black? And I saw the same move which he played. And maybe you can pause the video here. It's not a tactical move. It's just a good developing, solid solid move. So maybe you can hit the pause button and see what would you play in this position. It's interesting position. Okay, so he played bishop to a3, which is a great move because he develops his bishop, and he's putting his bishop on the most forward square he can, so he makes it in a way very active, and he also takes away the c1 square. So now I cannot grab this c file. But also when I was thinking what would I play, I was thinking about bishop a3, and then I thought, what should I play in response? And I found a move before he played this, and the move was a bishop to c1. It does look a little bit ugly, so moving your bishop back on the back rank and so on. But in this position, it's justified, because if he takes, then I grab the c file. So I don't want to give him c1. c1 is important for me because now the main plan is to fight for c file. It's the only open file, and for a long time it will be the only open file in the game. So he didn't want me to do me a favor, to capture and to help me improve my rook. So he played move bishop e7, and now again I don't want to have my bishop on the back rank. I want to have my rook here, so I played bishop b2, overprotecting this pawn again, and now I'm ready to seize this file. So you can see that this motive of overprotecting this pawn and grabbing c file, everything I was talking about in the beginning of the video, you can see now unfolding. So he castled here, and I played rook c1, of course, now seizing the opportunity to grab the file. He played rook a to c8. Of course, he doesn't want me to have the file, and he doesn't want me to penetrate here. You can see the interesting thing is that this square is free, so there is even a prospect of penetrating. So he doesn't want to deal with this business. He plays rook a to c8. Queen d2. Now I have to do something about my pieces. So now I'm coordinating the rook. I'm activating queen a bit. You can see that I'm hitting now a piece. Maybe this idea will be possible in the future. I was thinking about something like this. Of course, this should be prepared. So I'm just improving, and also I'm keeping an eye on these squares. The idea was also that I should play rook d1 and then try to exchange queens. So this was only the idea. This was also the idea which was in my mind. I probably had some other ideas which I forgot, but anyway, I think this is improvement move, just improving my position, connecting the rooks. Bishop to b4. I did see this move, so I saw when I was thinking about what to do in this. I was expecting this move, that he'll just attack my queen here with his bishop. So this is what he did. But I also, before I played the queen d2, I was thinking about this variation, and I already decided that if he plays bishop to b4, that I will play bishop to c3. It does look a little bit dangerous, but if you just calculate this, you can see that there is no danger. Everything is covered. Now I'm the one threatening to capture his piece, so it's almost forced, because if he moves his bishop, I'm threatening to capture his knight. He could go with some complications like bishop to a3, then I have to put my rook, remove my rook from the attack, but still then this is hanging, so I was calculating this variation as well. Anyway, after he played bishop b4, I played bishop c3, and he captured. I think it's the wisest decision to do. I took with my rook, of course. He decided to exchange the rooks. Okay, everything is forced. And now knight to c6. He finally wants to do something about this knight. So this was the concession he gave when he was trading the bishop, and now his knight is going back to the game. What to do now? Well, when you have your opponent's queen close to your camp, then you should be afraid of your queen penetrating in your position. So you need to keep. I learned this the hard way. I lost many games because I wasn't thinking about this. So I learned my lesson. So I have to think, what can this queen penetrate to my camp? And she can penetrate via e2, and then attacking this pawn, for example. And well, be very unpleasant here. So you need to keep an eye on this. Maybe this is not the best move, but it's a constant threat. You don't want your opponent's queen to penetrate your camp. So I was thinking about also this variation. So let's say that I play some nothing move. I'll just play something. So if he decides to penetrate, I have this move, forcing the exchange of queens, and now also protecting this pawn. But now if he exchanges, then I have to move my knight, and then this pawn falls. So you can see that this d4 pawn is the constant motive in this game, in this opening. So if he penetrates, I cannot play queen to d2. So I just played queen to d2 immediately. So now I'm cutting away his penetration squares. And I was thinking that at this moment he will try to do something more aggressive. Okay, no, not here, but later. Okay, so he played rook to c8. Now he also wants to fight for this file, and I played rook to c1. Now you can see that this knight is pinned. The knight cannot move because it will be not just loss of the rook, but also the back rank mate weakness. But of course he can move his knight to e7 if he wants to exchange pieces, because then he will protect his rook. But anyway, this c file is no man's land now. He played h6, so he probably saw that he might have issues with the back rank, so he just decides to put his out of his mind. And well, when he's giving me tempo, for this reason I can also do the same, because it's also I also can have some back rank weaknesses. So I played h4 here, grabbing some space and making the room for my king here. My opponent played knight e7. Now he's protecting the rook and offers me the exchange. I have to accept, otherwise I will give away the c file. So I accepted the exchange. He took back. Okay, I played queen c2 now with a tempo. So I'm again seizing the c file by threatening his knight. Okay, so he has to do something about it, and he played queen to d7, protecting the knight. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting that he will maybe try to offer the exchange here of queens. I'm not sure what I expected, but okay, this is one of the... I didn't expect this move. I don't remember what I was thinking that he should play. I think I was seeing something more active for him, but I'm really not sure. In fact, I don't see any good move instead of this one. And then after the exchange, we have some imbalance in the position. Anyway, he played queen to d7, protecting the knight. And now I want to somehow improve my knight, and not only improve my knight, but also to make some space for my pawns to advance. So I played knight to e1. Well, I have several plans. If I manage to get my knight on d3, well, I can... I have several options from here, and also this allows me for f4 and then maybe bring the knight back on f3. So I have several options here. He played knight to e7. Now he also wants to improve his knight, and df5 is the natural square. I played g4, sorry, just to take away the square. So this is, I think, Steinitz's principle how to play against the knight. So you have to take away the points, the strongholds, the outposts of your opponent's knight. So you can see that this pawn gives him this outpost, and I have this pawn which neutralizes it. So this pawn gives him his outpost, and now I have g4 pawn neutralizing it. Okay, he has this outpost also. I can neutralize it if I want, but it's not very clear how can he get to this square. So this is just how you play against the knights. You see the outposts, and you try to counter the outposts. Knight to c6. Okay, now again the same motif. He's again pressuring my d4 pawn. I played queen to c5 here, so I want to protect my pawn, but also I don't want to be very passive. I want to to play for some kind of activity. I was expecting that he might play b6 here, which is okay for me. I would just play queen to c3. He has some weaknesses now, so I thought it was okay. So I played queen to c5. Now I'm just protecting this pawn, and now he decided to force the queen exchange, well, almost force, because he plays the queen e7. Now he's hitting my g4 pawn, and he's hitting my queen. So I should either take the queen or put the knight here. These were two options. I didn't want to put my knight here on f3. I wanted to be able to move this pawn, so this would block my pawn. So this is why I decided to exchange queens. And now I was thinking about what can he do with his knight. How can he improve his knight here? He could try g6, hitting my pawn, and also aiming for f4 square. So in order to stop the idea, let's just see, he had maybe similar idea here. Okay, here also I was thinking about what if he would play g6. Then I would probably have to play knight back to cover this pawn and then maybe advance my pawns. Or maybe I could, just let me see. No, I play g4 here. So what if he went here? I could even try something like this and then maybe exchange. Okay, I had some ideas like this in this position. But okay, we went further. So after the exchange of the queens, I have the same dilemma. So what if he goes to g6, hitting my pawn and threatening to come forward? So I decided to stop it by playing king to g2. So now if he would go to g6, which he didn't do, I can just bring up my king and then I cover these two squares with my king. So the same idea, cutting away the strongholds, the squares for his knight. Okay, but he didn't go to here to g6. He probably saw that he doesn't have any prospect. Instead, he went back to c6, again coming to our old motive, just hitting this pawn. He's not just hitting this pawn, he's also threatening to penetrate to my half of the board by going to b4, hitting the pawn, and maybe threatening some other ideas here. So for this reason I played the knight to c2. Now I'm protecting the pawn and also cutting away the penetration square for his knight. So again the same motive, just cutting away penetration squares. He now decided to bring up his king. I played f4 finally, so I'm grabbing lots of space here. Knight to e7, and now maybe I should have been thinking about h5 at some point, maybe even here, just to grab some more space. Frankly, it didn't even occur to my mind. It just occurred to me later when I was thinking about the game, and you will see why. This h5 was later a very good move, so maybe I should have played this earlier. But okay, I just wanted to improve my king, and the idea was not just a general improvement of king, but the idea was that I want king to guard this d4 square so that my knight can then go on its own business, because now my knight is tied to defending this pawn. So the idea was to bring the king here, and then my knight can go wandering away. He played f6. Okay, I spent a little bit time calculating what if, and I decided everything is okay. And I played a king to e3, now covering the pawn. And now he took the pawn. F takes e5. And here I was thinking what to do. One option is to take with f takes e pawn. This is the normal option. But here you can see that everything is symmetric. The center is locked, 2 pawns, 2 pawns. This is almost a dead draw. So what can I learn from this position? Again, I am when I'm choosing openings, when I'm choosing what positions to play, and also when I'm choosing endgames, I try to choose interesting positions in which can offer me learning experience. So I want to learn by playing chess. I don't want just to play chess to get over with. I want to have the game in which I can learn. I can learn by playing. I can learn by analyzing it later. So I try to avoid dead draw positions if it's possible. Of course, I will not take unnecessary irrational risks just to get interesting position. So if I need to choose between two moves which looks equally good for me, I will choose the move which will give me more interesting position, in which I can train myself while playing the position and learn from the position when analyzing. So this is one principle which if you are an adult improver, you can adopt yourself. So don't run away from chess. Don't try to escape from the difficult positions. You should embrace difficult positions, and you should embrace complex endgames, because this is the way you will learn and you will progress with your chess. So I didn't take with the f pawn exactly for that reason. I wanted to have interesting position, so I took with the d pawn, and the idea was now I can put my knight on d4, and I can have an active knight. If he decides to capture, okay, I will recapture. Yes, he does have a passed pawn. I saw this, but this passed pawn can be blocked either by knight or by king. So I'm not afraid of the passed pawn which can be blocked in principle. So it was a brave move. Maybe if this was over the board game and I was facing much stronger opponent, and I'm very, it's very important for me to get a draw for the tournament reasons, or just because I know I will get many points out of the game, then for sure I would play f takes e5, and I will be happy with the draw. But since this is online game, and I consider online chess to be a training for the real chess, for the real games, for the real tournaments, then I decided to go with this and allow myself a new learning opportunity. This move is bad not because it's too brave or too risky or something, but for a simple reason, because I missed this move g5 which he played. So he played g5 here. And now I have the problem, if I move this pawn, then he can just take this e5 pawn. So I didn't see this. If I did see this, maybe I wouldn't play this move. Maybe I would, but maybe I wouldn't. But the problem is that I didn't see this. So I should have addressed this problem in my head when I was thinking about d takes e5, that he has g5, challenging my pawn, which is the only defender of e5. So he played g5. And now I was thinking about capturing. I was thinking about pushing the pawn forward. I was thinking about this capture. And for some reason, which is a really mystery, in every game I have this mystery moment. How could I not even consider the most obvious and the strongest move is h5. So it's one of the interesting things. So I was considering f5, I was considering f takes g5, I was considering h takes g5, but I wasn't considering this h5, which is the best move. And if I only considered this move, I will see it is the best move. But somehow I just didn't consider this move. Okay. Let's see what would happen if I did consider this move. He would have to take, and great. I can create passed pawn here. And this guy is protected. Okay, I am not allowed to play knight to d4, but who cares? I can play something else. So I missed this move. I think it was because of the surprise element. I just didn't saw this g5 move, and it was like, oh, g5. How could I miss this? And I was a little bit thrown out of the balance. I took some time I played h take g5, and you can see that I took, well, I had only 6 minutes left. I took half of this time just to think about this, and well, basically to call myself, to tell myself, okay, calm down, you didn't see the move, it's not a disaster, just go on and play. So I played h takes g5 in the end. He took back, and now I took with my pawn. Now I have double pawns here, and he's now in the better position. So he has a better pawn structure, he has passed pawn, his pawns are connected. This is the isolated pawn weakness. These two are double pawns which can be very easily blocked. So he needs one piece to block my 2 pawns. And now, okay, since I didn't play this correctly, I can no longer hope for a victory here. I can just hope, instead, in fact, I must fight for a draw. So in this position, I was thinking about how to play for a win. So still here I was playing about how to play for win, and now, well, I'm playing for draw. Okay. Not only that, but I'm also losing the pawn. So yeah, this pawn falls. I didn't see how to avoid this. So in my mind, g5 was losing the pawn by force, and of course h5 could have prevented this. Okay. So I lost the pawn, so I'm a pawn down. He has now 2 connected pawns, which are isolated. I have this garbage, and I have nothing. So I almost resigned at this point. So I was thinking about, it's impossible to hope for anything. He has center connected passed pawns. His king is coordinated with his pawns. His knight is here very close. So I thought I had no chance. So I almost resigned at this point. But okay, again, learning experience. Let's see if I can get a draw out of this position, which seemed dead lost to me. So I just continued to play. And you can see that my time, I was also low on time. He had plenty of time, I was low on time, so nothing favors me here in this position. So I played king to f4, and he now played knight to d3 with check, and not just with check, but now he can play a knight to c1, and he's hitting both of my pawns. I cannot protect both of my pawns. So I will lose another pawn now. Okay, and king to e3, and now knight to c1. And this is usual pattern, you can remember this pattern. So how can knight win a pawn? So this is the way. If the pawns are connected, if knight hits both pawns, you cannot protect them both by themselves. So if you protect this pawn, then this pawn will fall. If you do nothing, then this pawn will fall. If I try to protect it with the knight, he can just kick away my knight and grab the pawn. So anyway, I'm losing the pawn here. Okay. And now I was thinking, okay, I am losing the pawn, but on the other hand, he will have his knight out of the game. And maybe I can do some things with my knight and king, which are close to his pawns. So maybe I can win this pawn, for example. So I played a knight to d4. He grabbed the pawn. King to f4. So the idea was to go to e5 and then grab the pawn and hoping for something. But he can easily prevent it, so knight to b4. Now with the idea of knight to c6, and now I cannot play with my king. If I would play now with my king here, this is losing because he's now forcing the exchange, and after the exchange I have nothing. He can even abandon his. I cannot even grab this pawn. For example, if he would go, I don't know. Oh, it's my turn. Okay, let's say I play something. He plays something. I cannot even take the pawn because he's just queening. So if he manages to exchange knights here, then I'm dead lost. It's game over. So by playing knight to b4, he stopped me for playing king to e5. So what can I do? I can do g6 and try to deflect his king and try to do something anyway. It's interesting when you have connected pawns, they can form so-called wall. And then, for example, imagine that this pawn is somehow here. Then it's game over because it's a wall. So these double pawns can be tricky sometimes. So I played g6 just for lack of any better moves. He played king to f6, going for my pawn. And now I played g5 with check. He grabbed the pawn, and now I got this pawn. So he decided at this point that this pawn is too dangerous, so he decided to abandon and let me have this pawn. And I think, I'm not sure that he could have done anything much better, but it was, anyway, this was good for me. So this is what happened. Okay, let's see what happened next. Knight c6 now. Okay, he wants to push his pawn, I guess, protecting this. And now my plan is to go for these pawns. Try to go for these pawns and for this guy, because I can maybe bring my king closer somehow. Especially if he plays d4, then I can bring my king closer. So my hope is that his king, let's divide the board in two. So I was hoping that, I was hoping that his king would be stuck on the right side of the board, and my king and my knight will be on the left side of the board, and then maybe I will have a majority majority of forces, and then maybe I could win his pawns and force a draw. So I played knight to f8 check, king to f7, knight to d7. So this little maneuver was just to bring my knight closer to the queen side. Knight to d4. I think this was a mistake, because now he's allowing me to go with my plan. So king to e5. Now I'm getting closer to the queen side, and he's going in the opposite way with his king. Knight takes b3. To be frank, I even missed this move, but it doesn't matter. I mean, king e5 is still a good move. I didn't see that he could grab my pawn, so I was so concentrating. Maybe I was a little bit tired. This was end of the game. I think it lasted for an hour and 45 minutes, I think, at this point. So maybe I was a little bit tired. I didn't think at all about this pawn. It's like, it was in my mind, it was like this pawn doesn't even exist. I just forgot that this pawn exists, because I was so focused on my plan that I should bring my king and the knight on this side of the board. So, and his king is on this side of the board, that I completely forgot about this pawn. And well, I wasn't punished in this position, because it turned out all right, and it was the correct plan. So this pawn doesn't even matter. So he took the pawn, I took the pawn, and now you can see that my goal is completed. His king has to go to this side, and I have two pieces, and I can easily win these two pawns to the draw. So he plays king to g6. I'm just bringing my king closer. Okay, this is very important, because if I were to play something like this, he can exchange this, and now I'm losing, because I cannot take this pawn, because this pawn will go away. So I have to be very careful not to exchange knights, like I said already before. So I moved my king here, check, king b5. So now my king is very close to his pawns. This is what I wanted. Knight to c6, knight to c5, now hitting this pawn. If he moves this pawn, well, I'll just take his knight, and this is a draw. Otherwise, I will just take his pawn, and he decided to try to defend this pawn by knight d8, but I don't care now. I can just take this pawn anyway. He takes pawn, I play king a6, and now he takes, I take, and this is a draw. Okay, this was it for the game. I hope that you did find some of my advices useful. I didn't want to just comment on the game, but I made lots of comments about my way of thinking and way of preparing for the game. So I hope that you can learn from this. And well, like always, leave the comment below. If you like the video, click the like button, share the video, subscribe to my channel. You can subscribe to my Patreon site if you want me to analyze your games on this channel. And well, stay in touch, and I will see you soon with more chess. Cheers.